Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Aliens and Angels podcast. Today, I'm very happy to bring back my friend, ELSA DILLON. For those of you who are not yet familiar with ELSA, let me tell you a little bit about her. ELSA DILLON is the mother of 8 children with her husband, Richard DILLON, and they are a family of 10 experiencers. Both ELSA and Richard are international fashion photographers and videographers, shooting celebrities and behind-the-scenes professionals for magazines and advertising for over 3 decades. This is the Dillon's second incarnation here on Gaia. They are a family of oversouls all called in together again to incarnate in this realm. They have experienced over 600 beings to date in many forms and multidimensional realms. With their oversoul connections, they receive messages and happenings with the supernatural and paranormal. All of the links are below in the description. Please do check me out, subscribe to my channels, leave me a comment, and like my videos. And please do share this content with your friends. And I'm happy to announce that I now have channel memberships available so you can take advantage of my perks. So without further ado, I'm bringing on ELSA DILLON. Hi, ELSA. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, my pleasure. Always my pleasure. There's so much we can talk about, and there's so much going on with our messages that we receive from other realms. I think people are starting to get it that a lot of the contact that we used to describe as extraterrestrial contact is actually interdimensional or transdimensional contact. Would you agree with that, Elsa?
Completely. Yeah, it's that's probably been our biggest message in the last 2 years is that it's all crossed linked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not one. It's this
Mm-hmm.
one and that one and this one and that one. And then there's the layers of it as well. Like the layers of the Bible, there's the layers of the grace and layers of the reptilians and Ray.
Mm-hmm.
But as humans, we do like to, because this is how we've been trained, is to put everything in a little box and go, that's how they all are. That's how this culture is. They're all like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you go to a country and there's many different personalities. It's not just they're like that. And that's what we found probably the hardest thing for people to get their heads around, because they want to pigeonhole it or
Yeah.
categorize it, make it neat.
Yeah.
Look, I get making it want to make it neat, but this literally is chaos. It's magical. It's chaos. It's space. It's creation. It literally is creation and imagination. And yeah, once we all understand these words that you said, Karen, it'll be another shift
Mm-hmm.
in humanity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you use the word chaos. I actually get into that a little bit near the end of my book. And uh, basically, we live in what I call a construct, which is a prefabricated system that we're conditioned from the time we're born to think that that's reality, but that's actually not reality. That's a false reality. And then we're given bureaucratic type, well, bureaucracies, and we're told that's order. So the whole system around education and school, religion, politics, and we're told that that order is what helps us to maintain functionality. But the truth of the matter is, I believe also that the chaos is the God force. And because we're looking at things from such a tiny little perspective, we can't see that on the grander scale, the chaos is a much more superior um, form of order. And it's a beautiful system that's laid out for us that we don't have to worry about the details. But I don't know. I'm rambling on. What do you think? What do you think about that, Elsa? Would you say that the chaos is actually a higher form of order?
Definitely. What it does is you have the chaos, so you allow the chaos, but something happens to the cells in your body and they colonize differently in you. So the more you have these shifts, the more you allow, the more you ground, the more comets that come past and solar flares, it just keeps upgrading you. And depending on your state of allowing, how fast you can keep up with it. And it's not a race. There's no human race.
Mm-hmm.
The order likes a human race,
Mm-hmm.
conditions like a human race, but in the cosmos law, there is no human race. It's just continual. If you thought it was a race, you'd be very puffed because you'd be like, "There's no finish line. I have to just keep running," and that's what we do. You just keep going, and this is what we're encouraging people: don't give up. Step aside and just allow the chaos around you and start to witness it rather than be consumed by it.
Mm-hmm.
And then collect the stories and the gifts and the magic from it, because there's great intel, there's intelligence, there's ETs, there's phase, there's other
So
humans,
much.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very real, though, I have to say. These experience we Karen, we just had a huge car accident here again
Hmm.
on Friday night, and we had the white car people show up again in the most peculiar way, and it wasn't our family's car accident. We actually were helping a young couple, but it's very real. But
Mm-hmm.
because our whole family, our little kids are up there with all the blood and all the tragedy, but they're up there holding space for these people to help heal them, to help
Mm-hmm.
with kindness and wait for help to arrive. And in the same time, we're having these ET types there.
Mm-hmm.
They were very motionless
Mm-hmm.
and overseeing, and they disappeared when the crew turned up. It was very odd. The whole family said it was odd. It was very weird. And so we have that experience for an hour of chaos, right? Absolute
Mm-hmm.
chaos and terror in the humans,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of damage. And then we're having the ET thing happening at the same time in real form. Like they're right in front of them. They were like a couple. It was like something out of a movie. But we could go
Mm-hmm.
and debrief. The weirdest part was it was at the same place that we had our accident. So you know what called us to this accident was the trees. We heard a tree land on the ground, and I said to the kids, "That's a big tree. We better go check in the paddocks why the tree, it didn't land on a fence, because we don't want the horses getting onto the road." Anyway, Jem, our eldest, and our youngest went up and checked the road and found this car hanging off the cliff. It's funny. I'm going to tell you the crazy multi-dimensional of this. It's weird. I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but it's just sort
No,
of
it's please do. Please, that's
it's
why you're on
really
the show. We want to hear you.
yeah, it's in our faces. But we didn't ask for any of this 2 days prior. The vehicle that was in the ditch is a silver ute with this young couple in there, the same age as my eldest daughter Gemma. And the The boyfriend was okay, he was injured, but the girlfriend, who we believe is pregnant, her whole she had such severe head damage, like all her teeth gone, her just her head was disfigured, and Jem's in the car holding her head. It's very dramatic, I know, but she's holding space for her. She's holding
Mhm.
space for him and talking to him. So she's debriefing him. She's saying, not now. Don't talk about this now. Not now. I'm there holding the car door open on a cliff while this tree's pulling the car down a cliff.
Ah,
Oh, it was, we got the other kids all up the other ends of each side of the road, stopping the big trucks coming because they come fast. And then these white car people show up who said they were ex-policemen but did nothing. They just stared, like emotionless. I don't think they were in shock. The kids all said the same thing.
mhm,
Yeah, they were very weird. They asked peculiar questions. Nothing about the accident. Like, we're holding this lady's head and they're asking us these odd questions, and then they leave. Usually in the accidents here in Australia, you should stay so that you can speak to the police about what had happened, but
mhm,
especially being police themselves. So we're still all scratching our head about these white car people. And if you listen to our other interviews, we speak of how the white car people seem to turn up at these really high key points. 2 days prior to this, my son, Jet, he was he's a farmer type worker. His silver ute went sliding off a cliff. And
wow.
I know and his car looks exactly like it's odd. The whole thing's odd. I still
Mhm,
haven't processed it all in our head,
yeah,
but it's part of the show. And so you
mhm,
rise out above it and you say, you rise out of all the drama of it and you say, how can we assist? How can we help? How can we create ease and grace with what we are doing?
mhm,
Not one other neighbour came. We were the only, if we didn't go out, they would, I don't know what would have happened. No one would have found them.
mhm,
No one came out. And it was the trees that called us. So people go, oh, that's just coincidence. It's the trees. And I'm saying, no, the trees are helping us as well. The trees are
mhm,
calling, literally calling us. The trees held not only my son's car on the edge of the cliff, but their car, like a helping hand.
mhm,
So when I agree with you, Karen, with what you said in the beginning of this show, it's multidimensional and it's multi-layered. It is. And it's happening in the galactics, but it's also happening in the real.
yeah.
And once we start to connect it all, wow, we are really, it's going to be amazing. It really is for everyone. It's going to be amazing.
Mhm, mhm. I totally agree. I also believe that our entire 3D reality um, conspires to help us, to teach us. It's all intelligence, it's all universal consciousness. And I agree, there's no separation between us and the other realms. Now, those of us who perceive the other realms from where we're standing in the 3D, unfortunately, we have been discredited, traditionally called crazy, given mental illness labels, nefarious treatments, anything to keep us quiet and to not be taken seriously in the social reality. But we're getting to the point now where what we're saying and talking about is becoming it's becoming more safe to talk about it, but also more people are going, you know what, I've had that experience too. I don't want to make the whole show about my book, but I'm going to play a small promotion for it at about halftime. But I do want to say that that is the reason why I had to publish write and publish that book was because I think a lot of people who read it are going to go, wow, I thought I was the only one. I thought I was imagining it. I thought that maybe I was delusional. I thought that maybe I have an overactive imagination. And I think it's really important to come out and tell our experiences and share them, which is another reason why I have this show and why I love to have you on as guests, because you're very open about your transdimensional experiences. And we're starting to realize it's not a nuts and bolts things with ETs flying in spacecraft around our planet. It's so much more. That's not even the tip of the iceberg. A lot of that is actually domestic anyway. Um,
Mhm.
and and yeah, in the beginning, it can be like falling off a cliff. You got nothing under your feet, like because it's uncharted territory. We've never been taught about this. We've never been given language or ways of talking about it. It's never been legit before. So this is a very exciting time. And I really, my hat's off to you, Elsa, for being so brave and so open to expose all of this. And I also want to thank you for being there for that family. Oh my
Yeah.
God, what would have happened if you hadn't been? What if their accident had happened a mile down the road and you wouldn't have known about it? Like it all kind of weirdly worked out, right?
Yeah. Well, the 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 kids are so sweet. They're like, they're helping. They're in shock. It's horrible hearing another human in such pain, but they can see the fear in the man as well. Also,
Mm-hmm.
the bravery of Gemma and Jeannie driving up, and it's pitch dark, and it's scary. Where we live, it is scary sometimes. And they drive up and they see this silver car and they could only just see it, but they had to overcome their fear of that there could be dangerous people in the car,
Mm-hmm.
and they heard this call. They heard the man's voice, and Gemma heard the frequency of his voice, and she said, "It's okay, Jeannie, run back to the house in the dark on the on the farm as fast as you." There's no phone reception where this happened. Run back as fast as you can. Je- Jeannie comes running into the house. She goes, "Mum, you're right. It's a huge accident. Call everyone." And she was so cute. She said, "Call 911." I was like, "It's not 911 here. It's 000." And yeah, so we placed the call.
Mm-hmm.
So um, we're now placing the call with you, the audience, and we're saying to you, it's now time to take all the things that you've been ridiculed for and embarrassed about and use them now as a tool, because if you don't use them, you know, your family might need that in you, or your neighbor or someone. And now we're here to walk this through the next stage. This is the disclosure has really happened for most of us that we're
Mm-hmm.
talking to. Now we're walking it through with them. So we're like the teacher at school saying, "Come on, hold the hands, and we'll all walk forward now together in this new way." We don't need to
Mm-hmm.
have that. It's okay. We're beyond the crazy now. The crazy ones are actually the ones that make sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your book, I
Absolutely.
want to hear about your book. I'm excited about your book. Please, any topics you want to talk about your book, I would love to talk to you about.
Okay, I want to talk a bit about it, but first I have another question for you, and that is these white car people you talk about, because
Ah,
they've showed up before. Do you
ah,
think they're a little bit like what is usually described as the men in black? They're weird. They're just weird beings. Some people have noticed that they're not even really human. Like
no,
we don't know what they are, but they're
we
weird.
took we got footage of them this time, so that was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, but the oddest questions. I was holding the car door, so I was really just basically a doorstop. and Gemma was doing all the work in the car, but the family were filming everything, um, just for our protection and the ongoings. But these people, even the way they look at the camera, they look like they're digital or something. Their number plates are weird. The company names of these white car people, they turn up at the most peculiar moments, at the most peculiar time, exactly after something really big has happened. It doesn't have to be an accident. It could be just a clearing or a grounding. It could be just we said some sweet words about a location that's sacred, and then they'll just appear like they're right in front of you there. And at first, years ago when they first turned up, it was scary. It was scary. Because where did they come from? First of all, there was always one car or three. It's always one or three. It's never really two. And they always have their either warrior type looking or the blue eye ones. They're either or. And they always want to hear our voice, whether they just ask us I'm bringing it up because someone else might have something, or you might have an experience, Karen, where you go, that's interesting, because they have to hear our voice. So they come over and they say, hello. They don't ask what we're doing. They ask something completely opposite, which to me as a human, I go, are they trying to tell me that they're not human by asking something completely, like if you're out in the middle of nowhere and then the white car turns up, you haven't seen anyone for 5 hours, and then this white car turns up and they say, oh, so you homeschool your children? And you're like, what? What? Oh, your kids aren't at school, that's all. And I'm like, oh, okay. We're out in the middle of nowhere and this is the topic you're asking us? I thought you might ask for directions or talk about the car, or just that it's odd. And because we're aware of it, and I guess, yeah. And I know you are. I know you're aware of things too. So you notice things, right?
You know what I think they are is I think that they are actually time traveling archaeologists. And I think
Ah,
they have technology that doesn't just record what you're saying. It records your thoughts, your feelings, your frequency changes within your body, because we are so limited here on planet Earth, being raised in a system where we believe that what the experts say is real is what's real. And there are beings with technologies we can't even imagine, just mind-blowing technology. So I think they're actually time traveling archaeologists, but I think they could also quite well be transdimensional, because there are a lot of beings out there who do look a bit like us, quite a bit like us. Unless you were really in tune or paying attention, you might not pick up on the differences. And that's what I think it is. And not that I'm an expert, I'm just saying that's what I think it is.
yeah. Well, sometimes we think of them, they can come through sort of like an angelic type way. Sometimes we think that when they do show up, it's definitely a confirmation that there's a great shift happening. That's what the big confirmation is. Around these last 2 days, we've had a few farm animals pass, which has been also, this full moon's been a big one, and my hearts go out to all of you, really, because I've seen what's happened in the family. But we had 2 of the little puppies. I just woke up after that accident night, and 2 had passed, and they're both facing each other, like their heads like this. And I looked down at them, and I'm so depleted from crying anymore. And it sounded like almost, I'm not emotionless, but the message I got from these beautiful little beings was, it's come to a head. It's to head now. And I think this is a great message from the puppies, because now I believe that people are really understanding that they're themselves and they're the witness of themselves, and it's okay in the chaos. Yeah, it's okay in the ones that are passing on, and because you can still feel them, you can still communicate with them, and it's not over. It's continual. It's not a human race. It's continual, like multi-dimensional, multi-layered. Um, I'm not smiling about it, but I'm so grateful that they came into our life, and I'm grateful for that couple that came into our life too. Taught our family so much. I'm grateful for the white car people, as scary as they are sometimes. I mean, when they move like these ones move like stiff, but both of them, and they were in sync. It's weird because I thought, oh, am I imagining it? And the footage of them there, yeah, it's exactly what we thought. But it was funny because in the accident, no one's talking. We're just getting on with the show of helping the people, right? And talking to all the police officers and everyone, because everyone questioned you. So you finished answering questions to the fire department, and then the ambulance officer comes. Meanwhile, we got the tree dragging the car down the hill, creaking. The tree's going, hurry up, hurry up. You don't need all the formal, get these people out. The tree's like saying, hurry up, creak, hurry up. And what was interesting is it wasn't until we came inside and had a cup of tea and went, wow. And then everyone started sharing their experience of it. Right. And so we debrief and we go, really? That's what, because that's the same thing I was noticing. And then, us, Karen, you and I coming on the show and doing this about your book or this experience is the same thing, because people will hear your book or someone will read your book and be able to help someone at work or something. It's like a debriefing.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. I'm hoping. But I got to tell you, it's a bit like standing bare naked because I've exposed, private details about my life that lead up to my experience with the extraterrestrials. And I've never told anybody that stuff before, but it's sort of important to see that there are a lot of happenings in our lives, especially when we're children, that we get told we have overactive imaginations. It's not what we're feeling that it is, that it's different. Like that programming starts very, very young, where we feel discredited and not taken seriously. But I also I don't get into great detail, but I get into and give the readers a snapshot of some of the traumas that I've undergone in my life, because I believe, and let's face it, Elsa, it's a rare occasion where you meet someone who's never had any trauma in their life. Our whole system is set up to traumatize us, from the
So
way
true.
we're delivered at birth to the way we're disciplined as children, and the school system, and on and on and on it goes. So I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm special, I got traumatized. Not at all. I think we've all been traumatized, but that there's a gift in trauma, because it actually helps us to see things differently and get in touch with a part of ourselves that maybe we wouldn't otherwise be able to harness and use that gift. And I think that leads to paranormal contact. And so I'm not saying it's a good thing. No one should have to go through abuse or suffering, but it happens. And since it happens and happens so commonly, let's do something positive with it. And I believe that opened the door for me to be in touch with interdimensional beings, which led to my angel experience, which is described in detail in the book, and my ET experiences. But it's also scary to go public with my information, because some of it's really controversial. Some of it people aren't maybe going to agree with or like, but I had to do it anyway. And it's interesting that now that it's written and out there, it's kind of like I've got not an empty space, but I've been carrying this have to get this done task. And now that it's done, I got room for new tasks, new things. So it'll be interesting to see where that leads.
Wow. So by doing this book is like feng shuiing. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I got to clean out the cupboard. I'll write it all down, and then I'll put the book out, which is like gifting it to everyone. And then you get on with the Karen show. I mean, the Karen show, your soul, right? Wow,
Mm-hmm.
such a good way of looking at it. I've never thought of it. That's what a book is, right? A book is getting it out there, so you don't have to carry it around.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
And
this is
it's
so
also
cleansing. Do you feel
And so,
cleansed?
yeah, it's also my therapy because when I'm writing about my experience and I kind of go, okay, I could add that part, but I don't want to make it all about, oh, poor Karen. Oh, she suffered so terrible. I didn't want it to be about that. I just want to give snapshots so that other people could say, yeah, I had a shitty childhood too, or I got traumatized too, but look, there's hope. We can put this to good purpose. That's why I shared it. But I also get into a lot of what I would call sacred teachings that I learned from my ET uh, friends, relatives. And while I was on aboard the big ship, I was able to partake in different kinds of education that we don't have here on Earth. Oh, that's the other thing too. In the book, I get into step by step how I learned to do telepathy because they don't use English. It's not like putting words into each other's minds. Plus, there's different levels of telepathy. We had to learn how to keep our thoughts private because there's some things that shouldn't be shared or we don't want to share or that other beings wouldn't be interested in. Then there is sharing with just a few in a group, and then there's sharing to the whole group. Learning how to do that shielding, that was a big part of it. And but anyway, so I give quite a bit of detail on the 4 levels of telepathy. And actually, you can practice this when you're meditating or when you're in a nice hot bath. You can practice this. And it's about forming concepts and sharing concepts along with feelings. And that's how the telepathy happens. So I get into a lot of detail about this. It's interesting. I leave a lot out, but I put a lot in too. Sorry, I'm rambling on about it, but um,
I just think
why
it's
don't we
cute.
just,
Step by step, step
yeah,
by
step
step
by
telepathy.
Yeah,
One, two,
step by
three.
step. Yeah, there's four stages to it, and it
Oh,
starts off
this
with
is
just
so
very,
cute. This,
very simple things like imagining a circle, imagining a square, imagining a triangle. And then what's really cool is when I did my training, I did it with a virtual reality headset, which doesn't have a viewer. Doesn't have anything on the front. It's just a band that goes around little buds that sit on your temples. And then it allows me to directly communicate with the big ship, which is alive and conscious. And it gives me the streams, the lessons to me. So it was very interesting. I've never heard any other experience like that. I'm not saying that mine is more real than other people's. I'm just saying that I know the reason I was able to remember and to share is because it was important for me to share right now. Right now is the perfect time. I thought, oh my God, it's taken me years to write this book. And because I have some learning disabilities, I have trouble concentrating, I have trouble focusing. Oh my God, I really struggle with spelling and language. And I didn't want my computer to take it over and AI it. I wanted it so obviously, when you're reading it, you can tell it's me who wrote it, not AI, because it could be a lot more professional. But um, anyway, so I'm just wondering, maybe we could just do a quick 2-minute clip of about my book, and then we'll come back and any questions you have, Elsa. But I also don't want to take the conversation away. So please, let's talk about anything you want to talk about. You're my guest, and you're my special guest, and you have so much to offer. Now, let me just see, where is it? Okay, here it is. We'll be right back in 2 minutes, folks. Karen Holton shares her stunning details about ET diversity and culture, along with their advanced ways of living and expressing spirituality, which is in no way like anything imagined here on Earth. Transdimensional, meet the new neighbors, introduces you to many different ET beings, the healing pods, the interior of the big ship, her orientation process, cultural events, and off-world mating practices. Karen says, When I tucked myself into my bed for the night back in 2014, I had no idea that I would be transported to the big ship, meet many different extraterrestrial races of beings, become well acquainted with their culture, and visit numerous interesting worlds. While away, I learned a great deal about the big ship, intergalactic and transdimensional travel, intergalactic planetary research, and the various options for resettlement. My true life adventures continued night after night, and I had never experienced anything like this before. The first few times that I awoke back at home, I convinced myself that it had all been some kind of a fantastic dream. But while away, I was eating, sleeping, learning, and visiting, all the while experiencing what I perceived as days, weeks, and months. I am so happy to present you with my true nonfiction account of my weird little life and the more important messages from beyond our realm that I have been tasked to share with all of you. Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors. Paperback available December 16th on Amazon worldwide. Kindle and Audible versions are coming soon. And we're back. Yeah, so that's about my book. So it should be available. It could be available today, but it should be available tomorrow. And again, yeah, I just got it published, so sometimes there's a bit of a lag time. But whatever country you're in, just go do a search on the Amazon for your country, and you should be able to find it. And if you can't find it, give it a day or two and try again. So yeah, I'm really excited. So you'll notice the images, those are not actually selfies. I had AI help me with the images, but all the text is my own writing. And it was interesting to produce the kind of images that were close to my actual experience. In the beginning, it was way off and it was creating all these aliens, like from the Alien season and all of that stuff. But pretty soon it caught on and it's almost like it can interface with our subconscious or something, because it kind of was able to then produce the images I wanted. So thank God for AI for the artwork, because otherwise I didn't know how I was going to do the artwork. And it's funny that AI generated images just really became a thing very recently, and I didn't know how to use it. And my daughter sent me a link to just a trial version, and I just started playing around with it. And pretty soon I had the images I needed for my book. It was uncanny, really.
So, okay, this is how it happens for me, multidimensional, right? With Karen, because a lot of things Karen says gets my attention, and the song playing is "Falling" and falling down. The world falls down. It's a David Bowie song from Labyrinth. Very special film for me. Pretty much not word for word. So as soon as I heard the song, I was like, oh, there it is. So to fall in, it makes no sense at all. Makes no sense to fall. And this is how we feel. This is the reasoning of the feeling alone, is we have all fallen into Gaia. And you fall in alone. You don't come with anyone. Even twins fall in alone. They come separately. So it's an alone feeling, but the word alone means all one as well. So even though you're a separate fragment that has come as a starseed here and incarnated here this time, and you might have incarnated many times, but when you've landed this time, you're alone. Yeah, this little dust, little spark of you, this little will is all alone. And then it gets layered up with all the versions of you through that realm. And you've got it on the song of your book. It got me teary-eyed. it's so appropriate for the book, because it's about ET. The song's about ETs. It's funny how a lot of the songs now I listen to, they're not about what I thought they were about. It's actually
Mhm.
whether they wrote it and knew it or whether they wrote it and channeled it, I don't know. But I've got a feeling a lot of these movies, a lot of the songs are literally telling us their stories in themselves. So
Mhm.
I learned from them too. But I didn't
Mhm.
know about this song until I heard it on your book.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
It's such a pretty
Yeah.
song. Yeah.
Well, I don't even, I have some video editing software and it comes with music that I can choose. I can choose from quite a lot of different kinds of music. And I do everything intuitively. The images on the book cover, I didn't get anybody to design anything for me. The whole thing is done by me. But I did get some helpful tips from Preston Dennett on how to get published and tips. Every once in a while, I'd send him a chapter and he'd read it over and he'd say, "Well, it looks good, Karen, but how about if you added a little bit more of your personal content and how you reacted to it?"
So
So I
he
have
asked
some.
you, so he was saying that what you were holding back on, he was asking more for.
Yeah, yeah. So he
Wow.
helped me that way. He's been fantastic. I would never have actually, it was because of his urging that I decided to write the book in the first place. So his life and the life of Dolly Saffron, who he's close friends with, and he wrote a book about her experience. Their lives are also intertwined with mine, just as your life is intertwined with mine. And some of the other people. So I mentioned the people in the foreword of my book. I mentioned you, Elsa, and where people can find you very briefly. And also at the end of the book, I also mentioned you, and of course Preston Dennett and Nancy Thames and a whole bunch of other people that I found. And every one of you, somehow what you said resonated with me. And I went, oh my God, we're all part of this. And really important disclosure work. This is disclosure. For those that are ready, they will listen to us and they will go, oh my God, this is disclosure. And it's going to happen apart from the government and apart from the experts and apart from whatever, this is our grassroots thing. So I had to mention everybody a little bit in my book. Um, just so that the people that read the book will go, okay, now I need to get into Elsa Dillon and find out what she has experienced, what she offers, and oh, this is what Nancy Thames has experienced. I want to hear more about her, just so that they know where to go, to
Mm,
find, to keep investigating. Because once you start realizing it's all real, oh my God, is it ever fun?
yeah. Well, the white car people aren't as scary. That's a big one. Because well, it powers you up as well because
Mhm,
they are confirmations as well. So
mhm,
um, yeah, it really, you know what it does to my cells in my body? It really it's like turning the kettle on. And it makes it bubble up to the boiling point, the crisis moment, which is what you spoke of. And these crisis moments, Christmas, it's not a coincidence. These crisis moments, we had one with one of our family members who got very ill very suddenly, triggered by a poison apple.
wow,
I know the
interesting.
whole family, 5 family members, which is in the news a lot, right? How they're injecting the fruit, and
Mhm,
they just were on a trip up to the Gold Coast, and they bought some apples from just a normal food store that everyone buys food from, and they were poisoned. All 5 got sick, really sick, but one family
mhm,
member it triggered illness within, and so we've been in 3 months healing. But if we took that person to hospital, that was the end game. Like it would have classed as over. And
mhm,
it's interesting because we dealt with the crisis moment in a different way. It empowers you. And this family member looks better than ever, is
mhm,
having more intellect downloads, is doing more greater things. It seems to all the skin tags off the body are coming off. Like it's shedding.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
amazing. It's amazing watching. You could have gone that way, or you could have gone this way, and it's it's hard because you've got the whole public saying you should have gone to hospital, you should have got tests, you should have done this, and we went, you know what? We've been doing this for so long. We trust ourselves.
Mhm,
We
mhm,
trust what we do. We can do this, and we all shut down basically, all not in a mean way, but we just shut down all public communications and
mhm.
focused on this family member. And it's impressive, Karen, what you can do. It really does
Mhm.
make you feel that we are all super beings. We
Mhm.
just admit ourselves to someone else, and then they take over and they get empowered. And you don't need to do it that way. There's other ways.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
choose, there's no right or wrong, but if you choose, there are other ways.
I'm pretty radical. I always had, because I have had some horrible, horrible experiences with the medical industry here in Canada. I've always, especially uh, since I had some really bad experiences, I tend to stay away. And so I was already heads up like a gopher looking around to see what's going on before the whole COVID thing started. When the whole COVID thing started, and I saw all the doctors following the propaganda, for lack of a better term, I knew right away I could not subject myself to any of their treatments. And then when I watched how far they were from an actual healing modality, I went, oh my God, I am so glad that I have this inborn sense that tells me that I can heal myself. So, what I do, and this is not medical advice, this is just my own opinion and my own experience, is I work on my own health. I work on feeding my body the best nutrition I can, and it lets me know what it wants and what it doesn't want, what works and what doesn't. Never mind what everybody else is saying. My body knows. And getting out in fresh air and walks, getting sunshine. Almost everybody I know has all the sunscreen, big hats, sunglasses, and they're also depressed and anxious. And I'm out lying in the sun all day with no sunscreen, just loving it, soaking up those beautiful frequencies from the sun. And I'm not depressed and I'm not anxious. Like, do you know what I'm saying? The proof is in the pudding, and I see them all wrapped up and trying to protect themselves, and in seriousness they're doing themselves harm. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice, but I'm going to tell you, Elsa, I validate 1,000% what you say. We can heal ourselves, we do know what to do, we can trust the inner realms, we can trust what's going on and what we're perceiving, we really, really can. And then when we get positive reinforcement because we get better and we didn't have to do all that other BS, um, we realize how powerful we are. And step by step, we come into our power and our sovereignty. So I just want to tell you, I'm completely online with what you're saying about us, about self-healing. Absolutely. And I apply the same to my pets. So, I'm not taking them in to the vet for all this medical intervention either. And I'm feeding them what they would eat if they were out in the wild, and they're happy and they're healthy and they're chubby, a little bit chubby, but so am I. But it's all good, right?
Well, look, the they target your emotions really, and guilt and doubt and fear and peer group pressure. I would be on the beach with the kids, and the big ones would be surfing, so the little girls would be with me, and I'd have peer group pressure mothers come up to me on the beach and go, and fathers would come up to me while I'm lying in my swimwear, which I find someone coming into your space can, unless it's important, it's a bit odd on the beach anyway. They would
Mhm.
come up to me, random stranger, and said, "Your child is sunburnt." And I'd look over and went, "Nah, they got a bit longer to go." Because I would allow them, because it
Mhm.
was teaching their bodies how to, I
Mhm.
wouldn't let them blister, but it was good for them. And they'd come home all salty and um, sun kiss. That's what we used to call it, sun kiss. We didn't call it sunburn.
Mhm.
But their children are all white and snotty nose and
Mhm.
and and don't look as healthy. They just don't look healthy when they're really
Mhm.
white. And but I could see them. They'd go back to another group of parents and then look back and point at me. And I go, oh, here we go. Here comes the ridicule. But it doesn't. Honestly, it doesn't matter, because I know that the kids are healthy. So
Mhm.
um, it's on. I was there showing them. It
Mhm.
wasn't, and from my experience, it was for their experience. So um, this is how now we rise above the peer group pressure, which was a program, a
Mhm.
training, and we go, well, this is the way you do it. Well, if you want to go back to the pain, you can go there if you want, or you can come and do this way, because this way is definitely more fun. It's a little scary. It's a little not knowing, but feels way better to your soul than that way. But if you want
Mhm.
to go back that way, you can. It's like
Mhm.
it is the Matrix, right? It's the pills.
Yeah.
And I personally have tested going back, and it kind of sucks.
Mhm.
Every time I test it, it sucks.
It does, it does, and you get to the point where you don't need to test it anymore. I have
Yeah.
an advantage of being an old person because
Oh,
I was born in 1956, so we didn't have sunscreen. We didn't have sunglasses was something movie stars wore, not us. We didn't even have seatbelts in our car. Now, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't use seatbelts. That's not my point. But my point is our playgrounds were these all kinds of so-called dangerous things that have all been removed. And we had a very different life. But now I just reflect back. And when I was a kid, did that sunshine do us any harm? No. We got a bit of a burn if we stayed out too long in the beginning, but nothing. We got better. We got better from everything. We got the chicken pox and the measles and the mumps, and we got better. In fact, if one or two kids got in our neighborhood got the measles or the mumps, everybody would bring their kids over so you could all get it and be done with it all at once, right? Like we
yeah.
weren't afraid the way people are today. And um, um, I'm not saying it was the best of times or anything like that, but I'm just saying so I can look back over the long period of my life, see what worked, what didn't work, and then make decisions based on that. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
So you're incorporating all that with the experiences you have. So this is the one thing that I really want to bring up with you, Karen, because it you're speaking of your craft experiences has great, because I learned things about myself through hearing your experiences. And what happened with the lockdowns and what's been going on prior to the lockdowns, and what humanity likes doing to each other and animals, is that if you're psychic and awakened, it's been hard, because I'm not saying poor me or anything, but um, you have foresight, you have visions, and you saw it all, but your words fell upon deaf ears, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been a silencing.
Mm-hmm.
And now,
It really is.
yeah,
It's very socially isolating, but it's also been a good teacher because it's taught me that sometimes it's not my place to say. So I might look at
mm,
somebody and know exactly what is right or wrong in their life. And I can't say anything because it's not my place. If they want to come to me and say, Karen, are you getting any feelings about this or that, or ask me for advice, that's different. But if they don't ask, it's not for me to tell. So again, we talked earlier about shielding with the telepathy, but it's also a type of shielding that we develop where we have to sort of put a barrier up between us and others so that we're not trying to give advice when it's not our place to give advice. And that is an interesting teacher in itself.
So with your step-by-step telepathy, I'm going to come back to this. So we have a deaf Dalmatian, so we practice telepathy with him because that's how we actually train him. Then the cats picked up on it. So that's how we knew it was working, because not only was he doing it, now the cats are doing it. So it was a way of calling him back when he would run off. So we would all visualize something at home or wherever we were, and he would come back to that point, but then all the cats would come as well.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so with this step-by-step telepathy, you can then use this with what we just talked about to test out. So just say you come across someone that you know you can really help them.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
you must.
you could
So now do
could
the
do
step by
that.
step. Yeah, do the
You
step by
could do
step.
that.
Yeah.
And we don't use language when we do it. So a lot of
It's a,
people think that telepathy is language based. It's not. It's like running short, little, simple, uncomplicated visual scenarios in your mind's eye, along with intention, feeling, emoting, and you combine all of that into a message that you can project. So yes, if somebody has like if somebody's doing something and it's not good for their health, but it's not my place to say anything, I can create an image of them doing a healthful thing and an emotion and an intention and transmit that, and they may or may not pick up on it. It's just like when people say, well, how come, Karen, you got contacted by angels, how come you got contacted by ET? And I'd say, well, it's not that I'm anybody special. This communication is constantly being rained down on us, and we have to be ready to then pick it up or tune into it. And then because we're all receiving it, but we're tuning it out. So as soon as we tune into it, the same as my psychic advice to somebody, right? When they're ready, they might pick up on it. They'll think it's their idea, and that's okay with me, because you can't be ego centered in all of this. But you just
yeah.
learn to project. But that's a good way to communicate with animals, bugs. I've done it with going into the woods to have the mosquitoes leave me alone. I've done it while I was sitting in the doctor's office. There's a big fish tank, and this isn't very nice, but I did it. I was experimenting. I told the fish there was food over in one specific spot of the tank, and they all swam over for the food. And then, of course, there was no food. But it went, oh,
They're
so,
like, that
you know
Karen's a
what I mean?
trickster.
Yeah.
Don't
So,
listen to her.
so I'm just saying, yeah, we can communicate with our animals. You want to get your dog to come home, just envision a nice big juicy steak or
Yeah.
something.
Or his
And
favorite toy. Yeah. So
yeah, or his favorite toy, or yeah. And then once we realize it works, it's a real thing. Oh my God, the world becomes our playland. So we just shut off the news and
yeah.
just start having fun and exploring, and your world becomes a playground, and it's
Yeah.
lovely.
Well, it's faster than Google too. So what's interesting is that you said, how did they contact you? It's this way. So so say you're visualizing a way to be healthier to someone, that's what the angels or the fae or whatever they're doing to us. This is what the tree did.
Yes, yes.
The tree said, "Come." I was sitting on the ground feeding the puppies, and I felt the vibration of the tree through my butt, like up through my
Mhm.
feet and my butt, and I was like, "That is odd. That's a big tree. You better go check." And Gemma came inside and she said, "Did you hear that?" And I went, "Yeah." She goes, "It made my feet shake." And I went, "This is a big one." So
Mhm.
we actually went out because we care about the trees. And if a big one came down, We want to just go out and say, "Are you all, are you all right?" Like, we care for all the plants. This one was calling us.
Mhm.
And so the tree is doing, people won't get this yet, but the tree is literally doing the step by it's like it read Karen's book. It's doing the step by step. It's going step one, get the girls. Step two, hold the car. Like it's doing the telepathy. And this is what will happen is, and then it becomes so then you do start speaking to water and clouds
Mhm. Mhm.
and so it comes back to what you said in the beginning. See how we go in circles? I love how we do this on your shows. We come back to what you said in the beginning. It is multidimensional. It does
Mhm.
connect with everything, and you're okay. You can do this. We've been doing it for a long time, as have many. So we
Yeah,
have just haven't been. Yeah.
Aboriginal groups have been doing this forever, absolutely
Mm,
forever. And isn't it interesting how the people that want the construct want us to believe that's all there is. Isn't it interesting that they have horribly treated and removed huge, vast populations of Aboriginal people and destroyed their cultures so that we don't learn from them. In Canada, they destroyed a lot of the Aboriginal people through diseases and infection, purposely infecting them and getting them sick, and millions of them died. But then they also separated them and put them into these little tiny plots of land, and they weren't even allowed to leave unless they had the permission from the Indian agent, who was a white guy. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to take this off because we're kind of almost out of time here. But my point is the Aboriginals have been doing this forever, and we're just catching on to it now. So,
Well,
you're
they're
probably.
also well, they we find sometimes I'll go. This is one of my fears. I don't know. You can cut me off, Karen, if I'm going too long. But I would go to locations and I'd have a fear of heights,
Mhm,
especially man-made structures, especially
mhm.
and I would get sweating but I didn't want to pass my fear on to the kids. But I was like, where did this fear come from? And it wasn't me. I was actually tapping into all the ones that have been pushed off. And
Yes,
I was
yes.
feeling their terror. That's what I was feeling. Once I worked that out, I haven't got a fear anymore. Now I know when I go to these locations, I'm actually just, like you said, step by step, telepathically tapping into their energies there. And
Yep.
I'm saying to them, I acknowledge you. As soon as I acknowledge them, it
Mhm,
just like
mhm,
it's it's quite impressive. So this, what I thought was a phobia or a fear isn't. It was that.
mhm,
And
mhm.
I found
Absolutely. And in recognizing that and letting it drop or, dissipate, we're also, I think, we are um, fixing the timeline, as it
mm,
were. We're
healing the
fixing the
unjust.
timeline, which
Yeah.
goes in all directions, not just backwards and forwards. And we're helping souls to move on. And because some of them are frozen in the horror, in that
Mm,
horror state when they pass on, they don't even know they passed on. So I think
mm.
that it does a lot of good on a lot of levels. So good for you again. I would totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So we're coming near the end. Elsa, I want to give you a couple of minutes to tell people where they can find you, especially those listening on audio. And they may not be able, they might be driving their cars, and we don't want them to stop and check the description. If they could just hear where they can find you, that would be good. And also, I didn't mean that the way it came out, but when you're driving, you want to just hear
Yeah.
everything instead of having to stop and look it up. And also, any parting words? We're coming into the end of the year as we understand it. I guess it's not the end of the, is it the end of the year or the beginning of the year for you where you live? You're in the Southern Hemisphere.
Well, we're in summer. Yeah, so our
Oh, so
solstice is
you're
summer.
so yours is the summer solstice. Okay. So you're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
clicking
So
in into the days getting shorter soon. Ours are, thank God, going to start lengthening.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
Yeah, but any messages you have or anything you want to share with the audience would be wonderful.
I won't get too deep, but I'll just touch on a few keywords. We're in the halcyon phase, which is the calm of the storm. It's the kingfisher or hummingbird phase. It's the seven Pleiadians. We also have got the Geminids going over, and they help us and assist us to recognize the two in us. And they've come in closer. A lot of them have come in closer than they thought, and they're raining in on us. So just in this time phase, just if you can, not rush around too much.
Mhm,
Let it absorb, because it's a lot of energy coming into our bodies, and it can go the other way as well and cause much discomfort in you. So
mhm,
it's a bit like Karen's book. You have to take all the information and let it go and allow the new to come in.
mhm,
A lot of it comes up in mucus, as you can hear with me, and that mucus, it can stop you breathing. It has stopped me breathing multiple times. It's very thick.
mhm,
It's helped two horses cross over, and a few kittens and dogs. So yeah, just assist your breathing. Learn how to breathe better. Take things that reduce mucus, like natural things, in this time phase. Not get caught up in the chaos, and just because that's what they planned in this time frame annually.
mhm,
In many cultures over different realms, in different ways, they would create chaos, controlled chaos in this time, so that you couldn't collect all the other energy of chaos. And we're becoming hybrids, whether you want to or not. So this stuff you can't stop. You've seen the solar flares are huge at the moment, so it's going. I've got a feeling they are actually going to get a little bit bigger. So take care. And we're seeing it probably till the mid-Feb. We don't predict dates, but you can feel it, the wave
mhm,
of it, how long it
mhm,
goes for. Yeah. So um, yeah, it's like we knew this was coming. So a lot of people predict these dates. So yeah, but there's many people out there now, and books like this to assist. So alternates.
mhm, mhm.
Um,
Well, it's been sorry, go ahead.
you can reach us on spinbeings.com, and on there we have a YouTube channel that has shorts of the interviews we do, like this with Karen, and it just gives you like a taste of it. And a lot of people then can go in, and a lot of the interviews are an hour or 2 hours, so they're quite long. So the people resonate with different hosts, and also different energies that I'm at with different hosts as well. So yeah. And the kids always say, "What do you actually do?" And there is no, I don't think there's a label for what we do. We just share, and it's
Mhm,
unconditional. That's about as best as I can get. So, um, if you need data and NASA type photography, you've come to the wrong website. Generally, yeah, our information is just actual experiences, so, and of different age ranges. So that's how we assist people. Yeah. So thank you,
mhm.
Karen.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for getting up extra early so you could be on my show today and other shows as well. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. It's wonderful. And I want to thank all the listeners and the viewers out there, whether you're here live or you're watching the replay or you're listening on an audio platform. I want you to know that I appreciate each and every one of you very, very much. And so that's it for the show today. We'll see you next week on the Aliens and Angels podcast. And if you can, join me on Wednesdays for the Quantum Guide Show. It runs an hour later. And I always have interesting guests, and we have all kinds of interesting conversations there as well. So I guess that's it for today, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Aliens and Angels podcast. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube, Rumble, and X channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All of the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will also find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.